So I am joined by Andy Beal, the author of a book called Rept. Firstly, Andy, thank you for coming and joining us today. How has ClickZ Live New York been for you?
It's been great. Yeah, I love the vibe here. I think the new name does a really good job of conveying all the different topics here. I mean, it's not so much just about search anymore, and so I think the agenda really displays that, and it's been great hanging out, networking, seeing a lot of new faces and a lot of old faces.
And you're the author of Rept. Can you tell us a little bit more about your book and what inspired your book?
Well, Rept is it's Rept, and it's 30 days to a better online reputation. And what inspired it, actually, my wife was doing one of these Jillian Michael videos where it's, you exercise over 30 days. And I'm like, well, you know what? If people can commit to exercising over 30 days, they can commit to building a reputation over 30 days. So I wanted to build a book that was structured over 30 days, that was easy to dive into, practical, outlined the different steps to take, but wasn't too overwhelming. And so it's a 30-day guide, but you can dive in at any point, and it introduces the concept of reputation management, and it covers a whole lot of different tactics and strategies for it.
Okay, so reputation management's obviously quite important. Why do you believe it is so important for marketers?
Well, I think that for any marketing campaign, a great reputation is a solid foundation for anything that you do. If you've not worked to build a great online reputation, it's going to be so much harder for you to do your SEO campaign. You're going to have to spend much more on brand awareness for your PPC. Nobody's going to care about your infographic or the content that you create. So, a solid foundation is really important, but then also everything that you do should go towards building a better brand as well, because ultimately the better the brand, the better the reputation you have, the more your customers will talk about you and say great things about you, and the less you have to spend on marketing, which we all love not having to spend so much on marketing. Right.
You did our keynote for us this morning, again on reputation management, great keynote, everybody was loving it. I was following the tweets, so they were just, 10 to the many. But can you give me an overview, or give us an overview of just the things that you covered in the keynote and what it was all about?
So the keynote, we focused on reputation roadkill from the past 12 to 18 months. So what we did is we walked through 15 different case studies where companies had made a really big mistake, and then the lessons that we could learn from those mistakes so that the audience can build their own reputation. And then finished off with some companies that were doing a really good job as well, and the examples that we can learn from them.
You spoke obviously about some mistakes. What are the biggest mistakes that you have witnessed over your time?
The biggest mistakes, it really is just boneheadedness, where someone doesn't think about what it is they put out on Twitter, or the campaign that they've launched, or the Facebook update that they posted, and they don't think it through in terms of, is this going to resonate with our audience? Is this being too greedy? Are we trying to capitalize on an anniversary of a tragic event or something that went on like 9/11 that doesn't really fit our brand? And so a lot of times it's just really not taking care and attention about, okay, we're about to tweet this. Is this going to have any ramifications? So really that boils down to, that really comes from not having a goal set out, not having a plan as to what are we trying to do with our reputation, what are our goals here, and does this particular tactic help us get towards reaching that goal?
And you gave quite a few tips on, how to make sure that your reputation management is as good as it can be. If you were to give 3 of those, the most important tips, what would they be?
Probably the first one is to understand your audience. What are their expectations? What do they want to hear from you? What pleases them? What might upset them? And knowing the channels that they use as well. Just because Twitter's popular and Facebook's popular doesn't necessarily mean that that's where you're going to find your customers. So that would be the biggest thing. The second thing is you got to amaze them. Fight for their attention. We're all short on attention spans these days, and so that's why Rept is just 200 pages long, whereas my first book was almost 400 pages, because our attention spans have shrunk. So you got to create something that gets their attention. An amazing infographic, a video interview, something that really stands out so that they'll talk about it. Kmart's video, Ship My Pants, was a great example of that. And so then lastly as well is make sure that you monitor the conversations. Don't just tweet something or post something and then take the weekend off. You have to plan around anything that you put out there, anything that you publish, to be available, to respond to any feedback, to monitor it. And that goes as well for your competition. Keep an eye on what your competitors are doing so that you can learn from their mistakes or see a campaign that they did that worked really well and say, okay, well, how can we adapt that for our company?
And what about if you've messed up your reputation, for example? Is there a way that marketers can transform that at all?
I think so. Usually it starts with a sincere apology. There's actually 3 words that I use for any time you make a mistake: sincerity, transparency, and consistency. So sincerity is have a sincere apology. Let your customers know that you are truly sorry. Transparency is how do we get to this situation? What happened? What mistakes led up to this? And what are we going to do to make sure that we don't repeat them in the future? And then lastly is consistency. You're going to be on a short leash, and you're going to have to prove to your customers that you have learned your lesson, that this was a one-off, and that you're not going to make the same mistakes, because they're going to be watching to see if they can trust you again. So if you remember those 3 words, that's really going to help you to recover from a reputation mistake.
Great. Andy, thank you so much. Thanks.